In the language of officials and politicians, what I do is called gamification of adult learning, and the sector is the creative industries. The old-timers in your team don't want to retrain. That's often the case, and as for trainings and seminars, everyone is already quite fed up with them. Namely, so that people come together, the team unites, people get to know each other, understand the common goal, where we are heading. Old mindsets remain. No matter how cool the training is, a person still follows the same old tracks, the same old path. Unless you manage to turn something in their mind towards self-learning and self-education. A Russian sales game, which has been translated into Hebrew, I sold it to the Jews. And you know, if Jews have paid for something, especially in dollars, then it must be a good product. Well, there's this word, kislozhopit, to slack off or drag one's feet. If your employees start kislozhopit, and it doesn't matter which department, commercial, production, accounting. It's the same with employees. If you're not paying attention to them right now, they'll go somewhere where they are paid attention to. Because the game, it's like a checkup for the body. Yes, it clearly shows who's got what issues.
Hello, friends. You're on the channel of industrial blogger Timur Lukmanov. Today, my guest, back for the second time on my channel, is the founder of the game Courage of Sales.
Founder of the studio.
Of Games Courage of Sales, Boris Timofeyevich Sazonov.
Yes, Timur Ivanovich. Hello, I enjoyed it so much the first time that, yes, I thought I'd come again and tell you about our new products.
Yes, since you got some new things, right? I
Have a whole range for corporate use.
Yes, and by the way, let's. Probably about 70 to 80% of my audience already know you. But maybe there are people who don't know you yet. Maybe they haven't met you. Let's do a little update.
Let's update the portfolio. Yes, Boris Sazonov. I'm 41 years old this year. I live in Ufa, but I travel a lot around the world. At the moment, in October, I was actually invited to Israel to be the headliner at a business games festival. That's why they called me an international coach there. So that's how it is now. I've been in sales. I'm a game facilitator. I've been working with games for 5 years. A year and a half of that professionally. And at the moment, I've created a community of more than 200 hosts in 62 cities and 4 countries. So I've got Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, and Israel. And
all that was just in a year and a half.
That's all. Well, we've had 20 months. A year and 8 months.
A year and 8 months. And I'd like to point out for our viewers that a world record has been set.
By the way, yes. When we turned one, on the 5th of December 2024, we set world and national records for the largest simultaneous play of games from a single producer. 50 hosts came to Ufa, 16 cities from around the world, and 254 guests. In total, 304 people played my games. No one has done this before, not even people who've been in this field for 10 or 15 years. They're like, Boria, how do you do it? Well, I suppose we're about to find out now.
Boris, over to you. You already have 4 games in your lineup, and I'm going to ask you about each one separately now. But overall, I'm more interested in the impact, in general, that games have on people, on entrepreneurs, on managers. And who is this game primarily for?
Well, it's like this, really. Nowadays, in business language and in the language of officials and politicians, it sounds quite elegant. What I do is called gamification of adult learning and the creative industries sector. And to put it simply, that's why we even have an owl here for a reason. Our whole life is a game, and it doesn't matter how successful you are as an entrepreneur, manager, specialist, expert, and so on inside, there's always that child who hasn't had enough play. Whether it's a board game, a transformational game, a business game, or a team game, we have those too. For up to 150 people, they really open up completely. So, that's the first trend. Young people are coming to work for you. Anyone who hires people or interacts with frontline staff knows perfectly well that they don't like to learn. Young people don't want to learn at all. The old-timers, the veterans in your team, don't want to retrain either. That's often the case, and as for trainings and seminars, everyone's pretty much fed up with them by now. But the game format is something completely new. It's genuinely interesting. We haven't had anything like this before, and your inner child will definitely be delighted.
The people who come to you with requests are mainly managers. Second, is it the head of HR?
Yes, mostly it's either business owners, appointed executive directors, or HR themselves who find us online. It's enough just to type in business game with us, or even a direct query like Courage Sales, and the first 10 links will be ours. There are tried and tested solutions, both in the board game format, so, for example, when the sales department plays, or any department really, Just swap sales for negotiations and there you go. Or there are formats for corporate events, like a brainstorming session. A strategic game session can last a couple of days. You can organize a large-scale game, a courage sales event for 150 people. You can simply work through all of this. And we've just received several requests. Apparently, they're becoming more active as the business season approaches. They say, Boria, can we have this? Just a day without work. Really. Say, we have a celebration, like the company's anniversary, or recently it was Builders' Day. Can we have a game that's not work-related? We just want to take a day off for ourselves, do something useful, spend it well, and not turn it into a typical boozer. Specifically, so that people come together, the team unites, everyone gets to know each other, understands the common goal, where we're heading, and also relaxes a bit.
Yes, by the way, sometimes people just hire managers who run games, and not all games actually bring the team together, right?
There are places where people quarrel. When I had 8 retail stores, I told you last time why Courage of Sales was born. Firstly, to train my 30 salespeople. Because, I say it again, in an old installation, no matter how steep the training, a person still rides on the old rails, on the old ski track. If you don't turn something in their head towards self-learning, self-education. But you have to turn it carefully, because if you invite some trainer or coach who isn't an entrepreneur, they'll, excuse my language, open their chakra so much that tomorrow they'll all quit and say, listen, I want to paint pictures. Well, my calling is to go to India or Bali to paint pictures or become a photographer. And they'll all quit on the same day. Well, you know how young people think, how they reason.
So sensitive.
So here, on the one hand, the idea was to create a game that's useful for people's development, but also to show, through the game, how they can achieve their goals, dreams, and desires, both material and non-material, through working at your company. In short, so that they grow, but don't quit.
Exactly. That's the right approach.
That's the right approach. I'm an entrepreneur myself. This August marks exactly 10 years that I've been in small business. So, naturally, I know the pains, fears, and problems from the inside, which is why I'm able to create relevant, modern products.
All right. Your main game is Courage to Sell, right? I have
4 of them, yes. Courage to Sell is actually the first Russian sales game, a Russian sales game that's been translated into Hebrew. I even sold it to the Israelis. And you know, if the Israelis paid for something, especially in dollars, it means it's a good product. The second game is 12 acceptances. These are 12 areas of life, essentially the wheel of life balance. It's a universal tool for, how can I put it nicely? For improving yourself, your environment, your understanding of the interaction between yourself and your surroundings, and for achieving harmony in the work or profession you are engaged in. In short, it's about emotional burnout, whether for a specific employee or a whole team. You know, sometimes there's this word, Kisloshopit, when you're just not feeling it, when something's off with you. So, when employees start Kisloshopit, it doesn't matter which department, whether it's commercial, production, accounting, and it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, you come to the 12 steps of acceptance game, spend 2.5 hours playing, and everything is back to normal. You see, it's like at the game table, everyone lays out their problems, opens up, someone has a cry, someone has a laugh. At the end, everyone hugs, everyone's buzzing, and the next day they're back at work with a spark. So, no one quit, because, well, why did we go into the corporate sector? I know perfectly well. The cost of attracting a new employee, well, it's like with clients, isn't it? It's much easier and more profitable to sell something to an existing client than to attract a new one. Most importantly, it's cheaper. It's the same with employees. If you don't take care of them now, they'll go somewhere where they are looked after. That's why, when young people join, for them, this game format, this game-based learning, really hits the mark 100%. And if you don't do this, they'll go where people do.
All right, so what's the next game?
Right, the next one is the choice game. This is already a tool for corporate or personal coaching, for people whom you either want to turn into managers, yes? Or they are already managers and need to learn how to make the right management decisions, and to do so quickly. So it's a kind of simulator. The more often you play it, the faster you get. You develop special neural connections and strategies, and you start making decisions more quickly. It doesn't matter if it's in everyday life, in your personal life, in family relationships, at work, in business development, or when dealing with regulatory authorities. Basically, anywhere you need to make a quick decision, just come to the game choice, play 1 or 2 rounds, and that's it, you become a different person. A brand new release for 2025. This is the Game Dreamer. It's probably the first game on the market that offers 3 ways to play with just 1 box, 1 game. If you buy it for your company, you can, firstly, unlock the potential of every employee. This is a board game version for up to 8 people, with the full methodology for running and teaching the game included. We provide the training, and you can uncover the hidden talents or ideas in your employees, or, as you might remember, those rational suggestions. So, for example, someone might be too shy to speak up, even though they have an idea. But when you ask him, like, Vaja, you've been working as a machinist for 10 years. Do you have any suggestions or ideas for improvements? He says, no, everything's fine. So, in the usual routine, no one will share these ideas with you. But with the Dreamer game, literally in just a couple of hours, you can discover the talents in your employees and ignite their passion. They start sharing these ideas. And really, even though we've only been running it in companies for a month, there have already been staff reshuffles and ideas implemented.
Now, I want to ask you separately about each game. So, about Courage Sales, is that for the sales department?
In Courage Sales, most often it's either the entrepreneurs themselves who are involved in sales, or experts who sell their own products or services, or the commercial departments of companies who play. Well, this game is really a diagnostic tool for the sales department, and at the same time, it's a training game right in the moment. And indeed, if you add targeted, additional training on top of this learning and diagnostics, well, for some it's about the product, for others it's about closing deals, and for others still, it's about opening deals. Because the game acts like a health checkup, it clearly shows who is struggling with what.
And indeed, you have stated.
It's stated that there can be up to a 20% increase. Firstly, people really start to understand clearly, and it becomes safe and bold for them to sell, because courage is a French word, meaning bravery, that's what it translates to. They start closing deals more confidently. The conversion rate goes up. And if you do this systematically, not just as a one-off, like a vaccine, but say once a month a game, a review, extra training. Then sales grow by 10 to 15%, even up to 20%.
It's that simple. Negotiation strategies that you use in the game. Can you tell us more about that?
In the Courage to Sell game, there are 3 levels. There's the beginner level, which is the basic stage, when someone needs to adapt to a new team, when you need to explain the essence of your company's work so they don't have that feeling of, I'm just here. I sell a quality product or service. I'm not pushing anything on anyone. I'm helping people. That's the kind of perception of reality you want them to have. That's the beginner stage. So, the salesperson stage is about specific ways to close deals, while the manager stage is all about negotiation strategies, including with your own staff. That is, it's the ability to delegate, to set tasks, to monitor their completion, and to be a leader for your team. All of this is at the 3rd stage of the game.
Excellent. And, as far as I know, you have a game, one of the few in Russia, where artificial intelligence has been implemented.
I'll say this, it's the first, and quite possibly, so far, it's the only one not just in Russia, but in the world. I had a situational question. Last autumn, I was in Turkey at an international games festival. There were 50 participants. Many of them were game creators, from 10 countries, from Canada to Japan. Since they came there, they are clearly not just anyone in their own countries. And when they saw Courage of Sales and played with me, they were shocked and said, we don't have anything like this in our country. Accordingly, this has already been going on for 2 years now. It's been running. We've tested it, refined it, and trained people. The neural network is for HR, for the head of the sales department, or for a mentor. So technically, everything is very simple, whether we play in an offline format at the table, or it takes place online. Since our last meeting, all our games have been fully digitized on our own platform. Now you can train your remote employees. There's no need to gather in the office for this. Honestly, you don't even need any app, no VPN required. You just go to our website and play there. All you need is a recording of the game, an audio file. At the start, players and hosts need to introduce themselves so that the neural network remembers each person's voice. Then, the host just needs to press 2 buttons, simply finish the game at the end and send the recording for transcription. Within an hour, you receive a text file that describes you, me, and him. Personal characteristics are outlined. It identifies who is the leader of the game, and it directly detects and evaluates. It assesses the ability and, in general, how quickly a person adapts to new situations, unexpected questions, and a new team, how much of a team player they are, and whether they can take on leadership if you want to appoint them as a manager. And most interestingly, it also evaluates their professional qualities as a salesperson and negotiator, and what they are lacking. This is in case you missed or didn't notice something during the game. Give feedback. You get this kind of brilliant report.
What changes do the participants themselves notice?
The participants themselves, when we collect feedback after the game, say, it was great, it was easy. I never thought selling could be so easy. Honestly, why on earth wasn't I doing this before? Because there's also this cross-pollination going on. When the players are sitting together, there can be 6, 8, even 10 people at the table. If the facilitator is experienced, they can manage a group of up to 10 people at once. So, in fact, they can even train 2 sales departments at the same time. They say, honestly, it's just easy. Now, this is something I used to do before, but I'd forgotten about it, and now I'm going to use it again. And this bit, I didn't know about, well, I didn't know, but now I've remembered. I'm going to use this right away, and I'll let you know how it goes. They start to get really excited, or they get that buzz, that urge to put things into practice as quickly as possible. That's exactly the effect I was aiming for, to make people want to develop themselves, to pursue self-education. Someone says, I actually want to read this book as well, so they really get this spark going. They feel inspired to improve something in their work. And there's a sense of ease, real ease.
Do company owners notice the results of these changes?
I had a brilliant example of this. As I say, a game is a fantastic way to reveal what's really going on in your team. Again, to put it in terms adults use, it's like going to the doctor and getting some tests done. It clearly shows you what's happening right now. And then, as an owner or manager, you have to make a decision. There have been cases where companies played the game not with me, but with my facilitators. We have over 200 of them, as I've mentioned. And then the manager, the client, receives the results of the game, how everyone behaved, the facilitator's opinion. And the third file is a printout from artificial intelligence. After that, from the department, 2 people were either transferred or let go. In short, they were removed from that department. And the wage fund wasn't touched, it was simply redistributed among the 3 who remained. Sales figures went up. So, in fact, the people who stayed were the ones carrying the whole department anyway. Basically, they got rid of 2 freeloaders. And the remaining people started earning more. Just imagine how much more motivated they became to work even harder. When it became clear who was pulling their weight, they redistributed the bonuses of those who had left the team to the remaining members and set more ambitious targets. Because they wanted to achieve more, but knew they couldn't manage it before, yet as a trio, they performed better. And then, into this already dynamic team, they simply brought in 2 new trainees. The newcomers soaked up the energetic atmosphere and started selling even better.
I'll even give you some feedback I once attended. A forum, an event where HR professionals and heads of HR departments were present. And one of the heads of HR departments uses your game in order to...
Is this the company connected with cars?
Exactly.
They have 3 branches in different regions.
Do you know what they use the game for? To identify negative emotions within the team. That is, when we conduct various surveys, there's always, let's say, always positive answers.
Well, it's a socially acceptable thing, isn't it? With any kind of testing, people don't want to look, like they're incompetent or unprofessional. They'll always give themselves a 4 or 5, right?
Yes, exactly. And when people take part in this game, they inevitably reveal themselves and show their real, let's say, their true.
Because in the game, we are our true selves. Look, people often ask me, Boris, there are sales trainings and then there's the game. What's the difference? I say, listen, no matter how good a training is, or a test, as you mentioned, it's always universal. It's the same for everyone, but the game is different for you every time. So this personalized aspect in business games is now being revealed to the fullest, and people really value that. And
this tool is used to identify those negative, unpleasant emotions within the company.
Which a test won't show. And we, well, to put it simply, HR. We sell this idea. We say, look, you're not just buying a game. You're buying a box with a game inside. You get an online platform. You get access to artificial intelligence. You get the entire methodology for running it and what to do with it afterwards. If you want, we'll even give you our online platform where you can upload your own courses and simply assign them there. Devaja, Petia, Kolyar, each with their own personal development track. We give you the experience of 200 facilitators. We give you, well, in the end, you're basically buying me along with the game. So the 120,000, which is the current price for courage sales, rubles, yes, not dollars or shekels. That's basically peanuts for a company, especially if their average transaction is high. Just now I was talking about a car company. There are builders. Yes, we have IT specialists, people who've bought it for their companies. The banking sector takes it too, yes. There, the average transaction, is 100,000 rubles. Well, they get high-margin deals from just one transaction. So, basically, even if just once, even in the most modest scenario, they played the game with the sales department once a month, and someone, riding the wave, closed one extra deal or sale, the game has already paid for itself. And what if it's 2 or 3? And people, there's also, well, apart from the immediate result, there's a delayed effect. People, employees, yes, we have clients who pay us money externally, and thanks to that the company grows and develops, but there are also clients. Internal ones, these are our employees, whom people often forget about. They see that people are investing in them, that they're being cared for. I had a game, they're being listened to. I had a corporate game, so we have a sales board game version, and there's a corporate one. I traveled with it. The 16 cities and 2 countries, Russia and Kazakhstan, and now I'm taking it to Israel. I'm the only one who runs it, but you can buy a license from me, by all means. There was a company, for example, where they gathered their dealers, that is, entrepreneurs with their own employees. And when I first came out, I imagine, they said, we've already read everything about you on the internet. We're amazed. How much? Well, they figured, world record, cool games translated into other languages. How much did all that cost? They said, we were stunned by how much our managers love and value us. So this isn't some cheap story for 5,000 rubles, excuse me. They buy only the best, and people appreciate that, and they feel heard.
Let's move on to next game. Your last game, The Dreamer.
The Dreamer, as I've already said, yes, it has 3. This is the first game that has 3 different ways to play it. The classic board game version, where, firstly, each employee's wish is clearly written down what they would like. We train facilitators to ensure that. Later on, HR or managers receive a full report on what their employees actually dream about, because this really reveals their true motivation. And in all the games I've run myself, not a single dream has been about money. No one there has a dream like, I want a pay rise, you see? Often, the dreams aren't even about material things. And you mentioned that they feel heard. Just imagine the power a company would have if it clearly knew, for example, that Timur dreams about this specific thing. Let's set him an individual challenge, say, achieve these sales in 3 months, and then we'll buy him that thing he's after. Boris dreams about this. Andre wants that. Lena wants something else. Elena has her own dream. This is what's called a PDP, a personal development plan for employees, where everyone has their own individual development track. For some, it's career growth. By the way, absolutely, why not? At the end, he is given a reward on the condition that he does this very game, for which people begin to go to work with excitement. They don't just have to work from 9 to 6 and then goodbye. This
When the employee didn't have a dream.
was. And I have, well, let's put it this way. Dreamer is the first coaching game made by an engineer. I, an engineer at the Microelectronic Aviation University, graduated. That's why there are people who come with a dream, and there are people who say, well, I don't know. And that's when there's a 5-step system for drawing out a dream from such a person using metaphorical cards and simple questions. It works. Why does an engineer invent a game? It works. The game works regardless of who is sitting across from you. That's why such a mechanism exists. Anyway, moving on to the game itself. It has a mode where you can run a strategic session if you have 1 or 2 days, or a game-based brainstorming session when, say, 50 employees are working towards a single company goal, which has been set out by the manager or business owner. And in the game format, ideas are written down very quickly, where to get resources from, who will take what. Moreover, people take responsibility themselves and say, I'm ready, for the sake of the common result. This block, for example, I'm ready to complete within a month, and so on. So, it's actually a brilliant thing. And the third option is when the same 50 or 100 people each play for their personal dream. This happened recently on Builder's Day. The client simply needed to give their team, a group of 20 people from a manufacturing company, a proper boost, to shake them up and bring them back to life, because after 20 years of working together, well, they've seen a lot, they're tired, their eyes have glazed over, but they still want to move forward. Right now, it's a time when not developing is just foolish. And so, we accomplished the task 100%, and the feedback came from the director. Well, apart from the fact that everyone had a great time and remembered their dreams, he explained how and to whom these dreams would help in their work. He said that now they've become more receptive to new training.
A dream is still something sacred, something internal.
Naturally,
If you've already shared, you become much closer to your colleagues.
the team becomes more united. They actually had a request. He said, Boria, can we have something for Builder's Day, our professional holiday? Something not about work, not about sales, not about production, problems, taxes, and so on. So, something like A, to have a good time, B, to understand what everyone wants, and to unite the team. You definitely have to move around, so it's not a sitting down game, there's lots of movement, interaction with other teams and among yourselves. And I really enjoyed it when. It just so happened that the task was for a new employee. Well, what could he do? He had no choice, that was the task he was given. He had to ask the general director himself for advice. Can you imagine their conversation? He'd never even dreamed of something like that. A millionaire telling him how to do something, even if it's just a modest dream of his.
And everyone else was listening.
Yes.
So, it turns out, this is the perfect tool for team building, for all sorts of events. Well,
Accordingly, if you want to order it for yourself, type it in on the internet. Sales Courage. Visit the website. All our contacts are there.
fine. Is the next game acceptance?
Acceptance. Yes. As I already said, it can be carried out for groups. It can be carried out. If it's a female team, it's perfect. But it is unisex. It can be run in different formats. By the way, I'll go further. In Novosibirsk, they even use it as a speed dating format. A couple comes along, either people who want to get married or those who've just met, and the couple simply answers the same questions together. It's a great way to really get to know someone. By the way, you can also use it for onboarding new employees. There's even a saying that one game of 12 acceptances is worth 10 point estates. So basically, you don't waste your time, everything becomes clear with the person. It's used to relieve emotional burnout and to ease emotional tension. Because there's a lot of stress in teams. Let's be honest, there's a lot of stress in life in general. And if it's at work as well, and it really helps each person to sort themselves out and separate things. Like, sorry mate, but these are your personal problems, let's not bring them to work. And these are work-related tasks. So when you leave work and go home, don't drag them with you, because you've got things at home too. Family, children, grandchildren, some have parents. So, don't mix one with the other. That's really great. And another thing is that in the game, well, the mechanics are set up in such a way that certain work-related issues become very clear. Is it okay to bring up some friction or rough edges live on air? You put your bag in the wrong place, you don't wash your mug, you don't refill the printer paper, you didn't sign the contract, and you ruined my contract. Let all of that come out in the game, yes, and get sorted right here, rather than people carrying it around with them, and then, sorry, at some office party they have one too many and it all kicks off with a punch-up. What's the point of that? Emotional burnout is the result of not relieving emotional tension in time. So, let's deal with it in the game. Then your employees won't be quitting. Because usually, it happens unexpectedly. So, just play games. Take care of your employees. They'll stay with you for a long time and be happy. And they'll speak well of you. By the way, I've had some examples myself. There are two cases of this not so obvious effect of games. The first is when an employee came back thanks to the game. So, he worked at a company where our games were used, then he quit, went around the job market, tried working elsewhere, but felt like something was missing. So he called HR and said, "Listen, when's the next game?" He says, "Well, that's just for our employees." He says, "Well, will you take me back?" These are really striking examples, and it's quite possible there are several of them. And the second story. With games, a savvy HR can not only work with the current team, but can also use games to attract potential candidates cheaply, or you could even say, for free. Because, look, the game is designed for 6 people, but you can run a session for 30 people in a corporate event format. You could say, "Timur, come along, Boris, come too, and bring your friends with you." The friends don't work at our company. They'll come along, what difference does it make if there are 8 or 10 people at the table? They'll run the game anyway. They'll have a chat, see their potential future manager at work, see the office where it all takes place. They'll talk to them, build trust, and it'll be easy to sell them the job. Your dream vacancy will be very easy to fill. So, through the game, you can work not only with current employees, but it's also a great way to attract new ones. And the third option, I'm not sure what you want to ask, but I'll tell you anyway. Games, especially the big team ones we run, can bring out the dreamer, the bold salesperson in a person. You can run them for 100 to 150 people. You can organize client days. And with the help of games, you can win clients back and keep them for good. Because no one else works with clients like this.
In this way, values start to align.
Yes. Any of these games can be easily adapted for the client. As I mentioned earlier, I have been working in sales and sales management for 22 years. I have worked in 2 international companies and 2 federal ones. I spent a couple of years working with network businesses and network marketing. I've worked in manufacturing companies and have seen the inside of not just dozens, but hundreds of businesses. That's why I can very easily adapt a game for the HORICA sector, for builders, as I did recently, for manufacturers, or for network business scenarios. So, if your goal is to work with your staff, to energize them, let's say, and boost sales, or, on the contrary, to relieve emotional tension and bring the team together, or to attract clients, these are exactly the kinds of tasks we solve.
And your latest game, The Choice, is for managers.
Mostly, yes, it's the kind of thing where you need a good operator for the game, a facilitator. Accordingly, it's a whole simulator for making the right decisions, usually in situations where the decision really carries weight. In other words, where the cost of a mistake is high.
Less.
This is a skill that, in our turbulent times, is simply invaluable. Today, someone told me that the ability to quickly make the right decisions is power. So, if you want power, play The Choice. A unique mechanic, interesting and easy to grasp. We often get skeptics coming to our games. Usually, these are men, senior managers, top executives,
They've seen a lot in the world.
who, yes, already say, well, for example, I had a case in Yekaterinburg. Just imagine, yes, a 50-year-old head of a concrete products factory in Sverdlovsk. He was pulled out of work because we were playing in the company's office in Yekaterinburg, and the factory is 100 kilometers away from Yekaterinburg. So he lost a whole working day. He was really worried about it. He was the main opponent of dragging anyone away from work. Well, him and his employees, and so on. So what I'm saying is, it's not just salespeople who play our games. After the game, well, he really opened up unexpectedly during the game, in a way I can't even describe to you. Then, when everyone had left, well, they had a company car to take them back to the factory, he came up to me for literally 5 minutes to consult, like with a psychologist, about a personal matter. He shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, listen, he said, I survived in Sverdlovsk in the 1990s. He said, I can fool a polygraph. Piece of cake, he said. Your game exposed me. That's what he said. This is to the point that inside each of us sits that very child. That's why games, earlier you asked what makes them unique, they are personal for everyone. It's an individual story.
So, to sum up, all 4 games are different tools for different situations. For managers, for the sales department, and for HR. And
Even for clients.
even for clients, in order to bring out all these values, to draw them out from employees and clients. And in this way, to synchronize.
Yes, I'll go even further. I actually have a whole studio